Welcome to my shop. I appreciate you stopping by. In this video, I'm going to give you a high-level overview of how I built this hall table for my mother. I've got more detailed videos available in the playlist, which I'll reference in the description, that gives you all the steps on how I built this table. Stick around to the end. I've got some special bonus footage where we show Mom this table for the first time in a big reveal at her home in Florida. To get started, I cut some poplar down and glued them together to build the legs. As you can see, there's no shortage of clamps being used here. Once I moved them out of the way, it was time for me to start working on the face frame. I started off using pocket holes to put the face frame together, and I've never used pocket holes before for building face frames, so I figured I'd give it a try. I ended up just doing the front face frame with pocket holes, and then I switched over to using dowels or dowel pins to put together the side and back frames. Before I can glue the smaller face frames together, I had to cut a small rabbet in the back. You can see I use stop blocks here because I don't want to go all the way to the end with the rabbet. This will allow me to glue in the panel. I'm going to use 1/4" MDF. And unfortunately, I didn't get any footage of me gluing in the panels, but you'll see the panels in the finished product. Now the glue's dried on the legs. Here I am trimming the legs to length and getting them ready for attaching the face frames. Here I am using dowels to attach the frames, the face frames, to the legs. I used this little dowel jig. It was a cheap little jig that I got at my local Ace. It worked out really well. In the end, everything lined up perfectly. Here you can see I'm trying to attach the runners to the legs, and as you can see, when I drilled my holes for the dowels, I didn't offset them. So I had to shorten the dowels on one side. It wasn't a big deal, but in the end, this will hold the bottom shelf on the table. So here's a picture of the finished carcass. As you can tell, I didn't glue in the panels on the back and the side at this point yet. And now we're going to move on to the drawers. To keep this video from being too long, I'm just going to give you the high-level overview on what I did for the drawer joinery. I used half-blind dovetails for the front of the drawers so that you're not going to see the dovetails. And then for the back, since you really don't see them, I used through dovetails. I've got detailed videos, which I'll link in the description, on how I did each of those type of dovetails and my process. So let's just skip ahead to inserting the drawer bottoms now that the boxes are built and glued together. You'll see here that I slide them in and insert a couple of screws on the back side of it just to keep the board from moving around. I don't use any glue, just to allow any seasonal movement on the sides. The panel itself is plywood, so that's not going to move. So I opted to use wooden drawer slides instead of the metal slides that you can buy at the store for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to save space, and those things take up about an inch when you consider they're 1/2 inch thick each. So it allowed me to have more space in the drawer, and it just gave it kind of that old charm and feel. Having them slide on wood. So I built these little panels that I inserted on either side, and there's a detailed video on how I did the drawer slides. And then I put some runners in here, and then when it was all said and done, did some adjusting and fitting, and then did some paste wax to make them slide. And as you can see here, the finished product, they slide pretty nice. The next thing I did here, I'm making little stops that I'll screw into the face of the carcass, and these will keep the drawers from pulling out all the way, and also keep them aligned with the front, so that when I push them in, they don't go in too far. I didn't get real great footage of this step here, to be honest with you. I just what I did here is I'm just gluing in some wood strips to the bottom rails, and then I'm going to create the shelf out of MDF that I'm going to set down inside of there and glue it down to these rails. So like I said, not real great footage. You'll see what the shelf looks like in the next section here where I'm doing the painting. So as you can see here, I built a spray booth in my garage, and I'm using an HVLP to spray paint the cabinet basically here. And not going to spend a ton of time here. I've got a detailed video on how to build a DIY ventilated spray booth in your garage in under 15 minutes, and just an overview of the HVLP spray gun itself and kind of some lessons I learned. You can see more of that on my channel in the playlist video, and I'll put links in the description. So I milled up some really nice black walnut that I got at my local hardwood dealer, and you can see that here I'm just panel gluing these pieces together. Once they dried, I just trimmed the edges with my track saw, and then I took a hand plane and I chamfered the edges. And then as you can see, I did a lot of sanding, like 4 different levels of sanding, and then I applied Odie's oil as a finish. I love this stuff. It went on so easy. As you can see here, it buffed to perfection. The last thing to do was to attach the top. So what I did is I made these little square blocks that fit into the groove that I cut in the top of the face frame, and I screwed these down. And what's nice about these is they allow just enough movement for the wood to contract and expand and not have issues. Okay, so here's the deal. We just got done driving 1,100 miles to Florida to Mom and Dad's house here. And while Mom's seen this project in bits and pieces, she's never seen the complete project. So we're gonna do the reveal here in a minute. I'm gonna go inside and coordinate with Dad on how we're gonna do it. We'll be right back and show you her reaction. All right, Mom, you ready to see it?
Ready and waiting. 1, drum roll. 2, 3. Oh, how cute. Look at the top, how pretty. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh my gosh, that doesn't move.
You like?
Nice. Very nice. Oh, I could think a lot of junk on here.
Junk? Junk? Your most prized possessions are supposed to go on here.
Your picture.
There you go. My picture.
Your picture.
All right, so Mom likes it.
Mom likes
That's
it.
a wrap.